Now,
on News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
O'Connor and Company.
7:06 on this incredibly busy, and I'd like to say important Monday morning in our nation's capital, because the boulders are rolling down the hill now, and they're aiming right towards 1600 Pennsylvania and the Oval Office. And whether Joe Biden survives his presidency, or at the very least survives being the nominee for 4 more years, is very much in doubt after the events of Friday afternoon. Coming up to discuss that and other things at 7:35 is Sean Spicer, and then at 8:05 Kurt Schlichter. I'm Larry O'Connor. Boy, you picked the right day to come back from vacation, Julie Gunlock. Thanks for being here.
I did.
And I'm sure, like me, you have been waiting for this moment, because it's 7 o'clock and we get to check in with the former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, a former special prosecutor himself, Giuseppe Digenova. Joe, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning.
Couple things here. Let me start with the distinctive mellifluous tones of one Lindsey Graham.
This was a political decision, not a legal decision. They're trying to put out a fire, and they just poured gasoline on it.
Do you agree with that? Or do you think this attempt to cover up and obscure and protect David Weiss, let alone the President of the United States, do you think that it will actually succeed?
I agree with Lindsey, and it will not succeed. As I was watching Merrick Garland the other day, I had the feeling I was watching a hostage video. He has this incredible inability to communicate with the American people, and he's so frightened of the job that he's been given that he can't take questions after making a very important public statement, which would naturally draw questions from reporters. But it's those questions he wanted to avoid. Why did he want to avoid them? Because the appointment is a fraud. Mr. Weiss is not independent. He's totally compromised and corrupt. He took 5 years to produce a mouse of a case against Hunter Biden, which was designed to protect not only Hunter Biden from FARA and corrupt deals overseas and bribery, but to protect Joe Biden.
Yep.
No search warrants, no interviews with the Bidens, not allowed to talk about the Bidens, the investigators, notice to defendants of search warrants. This was a disgusting display of tone deafness by Merrick Garland. And when you see what he did after lying about what power Weiss had, Garland then gives him the power that he said he already had.
Thank you.
And then Weiss asks for the power that he should have asked for 5 years ago. He couldn't perceive that this was a case involving a conflict of interest with the family of the then vice president and the now president of the United States. This is so filthy, so disgusting, that even the U.S. Attorney in D.C., Matthew Graves, might think that there was a problem here. This incompetent, who has my job, my former job, as I'm watching this idiot let crime run free in D.C. No, this is not a joke. This is a disgusting piece of public corruption in public view.
So a couple of things. First of all, quickly, just on the law here, because a lot of people were making noise about the fact that a special counsel by the statute is supposed to be outside of the government, and clearly Mr. Weiss is not. However, there's also no teeth to that statute. Nobody has standing to sue the Attorney General if he violates it. And also people were pointing to the fact that Mr. Durham was appointed special counsel powers when he was a U.S. Attorney. So can you sort of just give us a concise answer on that question?
Yeah, it's a regulation, which means the Attorney General can ignore it and do anything he wants because there's no enforcement mechanism. So game over. Let's move on to the real subject, which is the person appointed is totally corrupt, conflicted, and shouldn't be in the job. And it's Congress's point at this point to not only point that out, but to say either you appoint someone else now from outside the government who is a distinguished member of the bar, or there's going to be impeachment. They've got to start.
If I can just jump one step ahead of that, because I am so sick of Congress threatening, and then finally the Christopher Wray or Merrick Garland sort of caves but doesn't. Why even make the threat right now? The fact that Weiss was appointed is, in fact, evidence of obstruction of justice. And I think impeachment,
I agree.
Can't impeachment proceedings begin right now?
Of course they can. They can do anything they want to do. They should start an impeachment area, a generic impeachment area on the president and the Attorney General. They can do 2 or 3 people at the same time because they're all involved in a conspiracy. By the way, I'm going to reiterate this again for the listeners. I've said this before, but it's becoming much more important. Every public statement that Joe Biden has said about this case, when he's at the Council on Foreign Relations and he brags about firing Shokin, when he comes and he lies publicly about what his relationship was with his son and his son's business, every one of those lies is an overt act in a conspiracy, and it revives the statute of limitations on everything in the conspiracy, which includes all the tax offenses, all the FARA violations, all the bribery and extortion. There are no longer every single case that could have been brought can now be brought again.
Joe, what do you make of the silence of Democrats? Dan Goldman, of course, he's always trotted out.
Fright.
Yeah.
What?
Fright. They're scared. They know that. Yeah. If they jump out, that's the question.
The Democrats are so corrupt, and they're so vicious in their ability to ignore all wrongdoing that even they at this point know this is so bad, so ugly, so incomprehensible that even they can't figure out how to lie about it. And that clown from New York, that
Goldman.
congressman, he is disgusting. He's a member of the bar. Boy, do you see the bar of New York doing anything? Absolutely nothing. What a bunch of whores in New York.
Joe Digenova enjoys it. Well, I mean, especially there's this one part of 11th Avenue near the Lincoln Tunnel. We can get into that later. Joe, there's 3 messages. If you dare get somebody in the media or a Democrat like Dan Goldman to actually try to defend this, there seems to be 3 lines of defense. Number 1, they never discussed business. Number 2, you can't show any money going into Joe's personal bank account. And number 3, there was no actual policy that was affected by the influence that was allegedly purchased. Can you address each of those?
That's all a lie.
Okay.
Well, first of all, the firing of Victor Shokin was policy. Yeah. And that was done directly to protect not only his son, protect Burisma, and it was paid for with a bribe. So this is nonsensical. The failure to put the wife of the mayor of Russia on the list for sanctions, that's a change in policy. What's going on with China is a change in policy. What's going on with Russia? What's going on with Ukraine? Ukraine and our policy toward Ukraine is a direct result of the corrupt relationship between the Biden family and Joe Biden and the people running Ukraine. So all of those answers are ludicrous, and the Democrats know it. What do you mean they never discussed business? They didn't have to discuss business. And by the way, they did discuss business, for heaven's sake. We've got phone calls, we've got text messages, we've got emails, we've got meetings, we've got restaurants. This is beyond peradventure now. This is nonsensical.
Totally agree, but really quickly, and it's my understanding based on what you've said in the past and what I've heard other former U.S. attorneys say, you don't even have to show the policy was affected. If you're selling access and you're taking money, that's it. That's the crime.
It's an attempt. Yeah. It's an attempt. It doesn't have to be a completed act. If you give somebody a bribe to get something done, ball game over, game, set, and match. That's it. It's a conspiracy, by the way, to corrupt government. And that is now, it is very plain that there is a massive conspiracy involving the Biden family, some people in government, who allowed this to go along and didn't do anything about it. And by the way, some of the people in federal law enforcement who knew this was going on and did nothing with the FD 1023, those people could be part of a criminal conspiracy. If you wanted to be aggressive, like Jack Smith, you can make all those FBI people co-conspirators.
That's right. Arrest them like they're arresting the security camera guy at Mar-a-Lago and squeezing him.
That's
all right. You can stay with us, right, Joe? I mean, you should have assumed to block out your half hour. Great. More with Joe Digenova in a moment, 7:15.
On the next Vince Coglianese Show, the biggest threat to the left? The truth. It tells you a lot. Join us 3 to 6 right here on WMAL.
You assured Congress some time ago that the Hunter Biden investigation would be conducted without any kind of political interference. And I wonder if you would believe that that is still the case, if that is still the case, that the investigation is not being interfered in any political way, since an agent from Mr. Lee's agency has now come forward claiming whistleblower status and alleging that there has been some kind of interference. Yes,
it's still the case. I stand by my testimony, and I refer you to the U.S. Attorney for the District of Delaware, who is...
That's pretty rich, Joe Digenova. That's Merrick Garland. Just 2 months ago, I stand by my testimony. Again, that testimony was that the aforementioned U.S. Attorney, Mr. Weiss, had full powers to be able to bring any prosecution without having to ask any permission, without any interference. Isn't it obvious, Joe, that by appointing him as special counsel, by David Weiss claiming that he needs special counsel status, that shows that they lied under oath, that Merrick Garland's testimony was, in fact, completely perjured? I mean, isn't that evidence right there that they can move forward with?
Of course it is. And by the way, you'll notice people miss this. During his press statement, Garland said, consistent with my testimony on Capitol Hill.
Right.
He tried to cover his fanny almost everybody missed it. He just sort of slipped it in. It was like a little phrase. He covered his fanny because he knows he lied. The Attorney General of the United States knowingly lied on Capitol Hill. And you just can't sit around and have this continue. You know, Mitch McConnell says, you stay away from impeachment. That's like Rapinoe saying, let's have men play in girls' sports because I've already made my money. So I don't care if other women can't make money. And so we've got Mitch McConnell has become the Rapinoe of the United States Senate.
I thought she's going to show up with purple hair tomorrow. Joe, so what's the next step here? Because I was emboldened by the fact that from Andy McCarthy at National Review to Jonathan Turley to the Federalist to Town Hall to every single conservative commentary, even Jonah Goldberg, and from Kevin McCarthy to Steve Scalise to Jim Jordan to James Coburn, unequivocally across the board, they all said the same thing. This is bull. This is a cover-up. This isn't real, and it's not going to stop us from moving forward. So they have escalated things here, the DOJ. Joe Biden and Merrick Garland have escalated things.
Yes.
What do Republicans in the House need to do now to counter that? What's the next step?
Immediate impeachment inquiry with increased subpoena power. Start getting the bank records of the president and the family. This has to end right now because the one thing that the Democrats fear are subpoenas because they know that once the offshore bank accounts are established and they have the Biden family bank records, it's over. It's over now for any sane person. Joe Biden should not be in the White House. He's compromised national security. He is the Manchurian candidate. They have to do the inquiry now. No more time. They don't have forever. They barely have a majority. Yeah. They can't. And you can't worry about Mitch McConnell. As I said, he doesn't care about the Republican Party. He's protecting himself and others, and it's just sickening.
The fact that no Republicans, you usually get your Susan Collins or your Mitt Romney to say, well, let's just let the process play out now and justice. No, you didn't hear any of that over the weekend, Joe. And by the way, and now the media is forced to report on this story, despite the fact that this is a sham and a farce of a special counsel appointment, they can't ignore it anymore. Media Research Center has been, cataloging how much they've ignored it, but no more, even though they're still pathetic and embarrassing. Oh, in fact, I don't know if you've heard this one yet. You've got to hear this. This is your friend Chuck Todd yesterday. Listen.
Yeah, Brennan, you can't help but watch all this play out. And it's like Donald Trump has been trying to bring Biden's brand down to him. Goes back to 2018 when he sent Rudy Giuliani to Ukraine. He's been desperate, and he did it. Yeah, and
he did it, Joe. That Trump did this. This is all Trump. Trump got all those $20 million into the offshore accounts of the shell corporations. It's all Trump's doing.
And it's actually true because when Rudy Giuliani went to Ukraine, he found out about the corruption there that was being conducted not only by the people who were running Burisma and the Hunter Biden people on the board, but by the NGO being run by George Soros, which was trying to stop the investigations into Burisma. There's a bigger story here that's going to get very ugly, and if it goes deep, there's no way. But believe me, all of this was on that laptop, and that is why the letter from those 51 intelligence officers, every single one of them, should be included in the impeachment inquiry, put under oath, and made to come forward and testify about their role, because that letter is part of a conspiracy to interfere in the election. There's just no doubt about it. There's no time to waste anymore.
Yeah.
This is it. The evidence is there, and believe me, as soon as they start that inquiry with the formal vote in the House to begin the inquiry, the Democrats will figure out a way to get Biden to resign.
Yep.
He'll pardon Hunter, and the rest of he will pardon his entire family. He will resign. We will have President Harris for a few months, but this is going to be over. We've reached critical mass. The president, let me just say this very clearly. The president of the United States is guilty of bribery. He has committed crimes as vice president. He has committed crimes as president. He needs to be removed from office. And if he isn't removed, then, the shame on the House of Representatives.
Oh. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you so much.
You bet.
7:23. Coming up, a big weekend in Des Moines, Iowa. The presidential sweepstakes heating up with the debate less than 2 weeks away. Sean Spicer's been there, and he'll give us his analysis next. 7:37 on an extraordinarily busy morning here, coming off the stunning announcement Friday of Merrick Garland that, well, as you heard from Joe Digenova just now, we're watching the cover-up play out before our eyes. Coming up at 8:05, Kurt Schlichter is ready to break a few glasses and some china. So we'll get him coming up. It's Julie Gunlock back from vacation.
Yay.
Julie, welcome back. I'm Larry O'Connor, and joining us right now is Sean Spicer. Sean Spicer, of course, former spokesperson for the Trump White House. And now I understand your point. I want to get into the campaigning in Iowa. I want to get into the Biden corruption. I want to get into the debate coming up. But you have a big announcement to make, Sean Spicer, and I'm excited to hear it.
Well, thank you, Larry. It's always good to be with you. After months of lobbying to take over the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Center, you apparently passed on me, gave it to Jamie Whitten, and so I've launched. We're pleased to announce that the Sean Spicer Show is going to launch on August 21st. That's next Monday, out in Milwaukee at the first debate. We're carried on all streaming platforms. So if you go to Sean M. Spicer on YouTube or Rumble, you can sign up now, get all the episodes. But we're going to be on the First Network at 6 o'clock every night. So I'm excited to be back at 6 p.m. every night on the First. Bill O'Reilly, Dana Lash, Liz Wheeler. It's a great lineup for folks. And if you don't get the First on your cable network, then again, you just go to my YouTube channel, Sean M. Spicer, sign up, and you see every episode. And the nice part is that I know you tried to compete by naming your show like mine, and so I was like, I need to deconflict this right off the bat. So we're good.
That.
We're good. Yeah.
No, that's good. That is exciting, and the First is great. All of these streaming platforms, like I'm on Salem News Channel, all the what they call over-the-top media, where you don't have to worry about being on a satellite box or being on a cable box, but you go, basically straight to the consumer with a streaming app or a streaming device. You can watch it on your phone. You can watch it wherever you are. You're not tied down to a cable box. That's obviously the wave of the future, and I'm thrilled for you that you're doing it. What's the format of the show going to be?
And the beautiful part is, like I said, so for the First, if you have DirecTV, it's channel 347.
That's right. I forgot the First is on Direct now. That's right.
Yeah. So that's the beauty, is that it's the best of both worlds, because there's folks who still want to watch, cable television, and so we can offer it to them. And then again, if you want to just say, hey, I don't want to sit down at 6 o'clock, or I cut the cord, which is, as you point out, the wave of the future and where so many people are, then great, go to YouTube or Spotify. I mean, we got the audio version or whatever, but it's
right.
Look, we're going to give the thing for me is the one thing that I loved my old show, but you were confined by commercial breaks and by a network that had priorities, and that's their prerogative because it's their network. And this time I get to cover going up to the election. You and I talk about this all the time, how we kind of met each other going over that first election in 2012.
Yeah.
And I've always been, some people are into sports. I love politics, the rules, how the game works. And I think as we head into this critical election, being able to explain to people the nomination, the convention, the caucuses, the primaries. I was just out in Iowa. We filmed a bunch of content out there with the governor and the state party chairman. And it's the ability to explain to people how the process works.
Yeah.
We hear a lot about rig this and rig that. Well, there's some stuff that's kind of sketchy, but there's some stuff that's just understanding the rules.
Yeah.
And so as we go into all of this, it's being able to explain the convention, the debate process, the primaries, the caucuses.
You've always been brilliant and valuable at that stuff, Sean, actually, because people forget before the Trump campaign, you were with the RNC for many election cycles. You helped come up with a lot of the strategies that the RNC uses for debates. In fact, I want to talk to you about that. And there's a lot of misconceptions about what the RNC's role is in some things, and that's why there's a lot of hostility toward the RNC sometimes, but that's also sometimes out of misunderstanding of what the RNC is even supposed to do and what their job is.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. There's time for criticism and sometimes well-deserved, but there are times when it's like, hey, to your point, that's not their role, or they don't do that. Right. I think sometimes candidates get frustrated about a process and say, well, it's the RNC's fault. And again, it's like, really, that's not what they do. Part of what I want to do with this new show is to be able to call balls and strikes and say, yes, that is their fault. And I've been critical of some of the things that the RNC has been doing. And so, there are times when they deserve it.
Yeah, and so we're looking forward to the show. In fact, I want to get to that because obviously you're launching the show that week in Milwaukee. That's the week of the debate next week. There's still a lot of angst, frankly, about how the RNC has handled awarding the debate, the platforms that it's going to be on. And now we learned last week that Fox News is putting restrictions on the use of video and sound bites from the debate, that outlets like this talk radio program, we can only use 3 minutes of the audio per show, and then after 7 days, you can't use it again. I mean, you were with the RNC. You set up some of these rules. This is your debate. This is the RNC's debate. This is not Fox News's debate, right? What's going on?
Yeah,
here?
So the funny thing is I got approved for my credentials to go out there, and I got the same thing you did. Here's the restrictions. Now, this is not a world I live in entirely, and so the question that I have is, I understand in a lot of sports events that these are sort of very similar type things.
This is This is straight out of the Super Bowl. Straight out of the Super Bowl.
You see, this is where my understanding in the sports world, this is very normal, where it says, hey, you can use this clip. I've never seen it done in the news world before. And so it's interesting because kind of jumping in and now really having a much greater hand in my own show versus a network that handles the legal intricacies. I sort of was like, wow, I've never seen something like that. So there's a couple things here. This gets back to the nut of the show. Fox is the broadcast partner, and you can't have a debate without somebody that's going to air it. And they cost, at least when I ran them in 2011, you're talking $1.5 to $2 million a debate. And so the question is, it's sort of the host definitely has some advantages. I think this is definitely an issue that should be broached a little bit more because I was intrigued by that. I'm like, wait a second. So you can't use it. I get them asking for credit. So they say in the clip, you must cite Fox News. Fine, fair enough. It's your debate. But there was a point at which I was like, wait, so 7 days later I can't talk about this thing? Are you kidding?
Yeah, and we still play audio from the 2012 debate right now when from things that Romney said and Obama said. And you helped wrestle these debates away from the networks and gave the RNC more control. So it's shocking that they can't.
But can I just get one point on that, because I do think you bring up a good thing. So in 2015, prior to 2015, no party, the Republicans and the Democrats, ever controlled their primary debate process, ever. And it became something that I asked the committee, their chairman, Reince Priebus, and the members. I said, listen, I think we can pull this off if we're all united. The committee was 100% behind the effort. And so we went ahead and did it. We're successful. But the point that I've made since then is, okay, guys, we needed these debate partners, okay? We needed them because we needed somebody to broadcast. We were starting from scratch. Yeah. And so what we did is inject a conservative element to every debate. We made sure that if ABC was hosting the debate, Mary Catherine Ham, in that example in New Hampshire, was sitting at the debate table asking questions.
And I was there. I was there too.
Yeah. But the point is that 8 years later, we don't need them anymore. We can use Salem Media. We can use the Daily Wire.
Right.
We can use the Blaze Television. We have platforms now. We don't need and my biggest sort of criticism right now is, okay, guys, 8 years ago, we didn't have the options. They weren't as mature, these conservative networks, to be able to handle a debate of this size. They are now.
Yep.
Glenn Beck knows what he's doing. Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring over at the Daily Wire are brilliant. They know what they're doing. We don't need these platforms. The First could host a debate. And the point is that the RNC is stuck right now in a legacy mentality of saying, okay, well, we need CNN. No, you don't.
That's right.
And
100%.
so that would be my biggest criticism, is to say, why are we stuck in a system that says you need Jake Tapper and Wolf Blitzer to moderate a debate?
All right, that is our media segment with Sean Spicer. Let's get to the heart and soul of the politics since he just came from Iowa. Things were pretty heated this weekend. We're definitely in the middle of this campaign. So, Sean, can you stick with us for one more segment? We'll get to the details of it.
I can.
Thank you, sir. 7:45 WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives with Jamie Whitten. And by the way, Jamie, it wasn't even close. Sean, he put in his application, but it was perfunctory, but it was always going to be you in the Hadid carpet cleaning traffic center.
Oh, sorry, Sean. All right. Well, thank you. All right.
Continuing now with Sean Spicer, host of the brand new Sean Spicer Show that you'll be able to see starting Monday live on the First or YouTube or Rumble or wherever. Just subscribe now so you won't miss it. Sean, you said you were just in Des Moines. This was the big Joni Ernst state fair situation thing with all the politics and everything. And here's what I saw. I saw all the candidates working their butts off. Ron DeSantis flipping pork chops, doing the whole thing. Trump flies in on his private jet. He does a 45-minute thing to the biggest crowd there, and then he gets on his jet and flies away, and everyone's saying, yeah, Trump stole the show. Is that basically where we are?
Yeah, except the pork belly on a stick was fantastic. It was great. I was there right before he got there in the line. I mean, I would have never gotten in the line if he was there because it was way too big. But it was, I'll tell you, I've been to the state fair before, but it's been years ago. It's a reminder of why Iowa goes first. These people love to kick the tires, talk to candidates, question them. It's interesting, though, because you're right. Everybody else sat up there at this, the different venues. Kim Reynolds, the governor, she had this fireside fair. She called it a fireside chat. The Des Moines Register had their soapbox, and the candidates would walk around, and you could walk up to them, talk to them. It was amazing the level of interaction. And then you're right, Trump flies in, drops down, just kind of does a quick run through, and everybody goes nuts. But it was that way in the fair. I mean, I was walking around. People had Trump gear on, and I would ask them, is there there was nothing that could move them. They were like, we love this guy, he's our guy, blah, 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 blah. And the one thing I will tell you that's interesting, though, and this again goes back to the nut of why I'm doing the show, is that on its face, if you fly in for 24 hours, you go, okay, it's Trump's to win. And I do think this is Trump's to lose, just to be clear for everybody. Yeah. But I will tell you the reason that the last three winners of Iowa, you got Mike Huckabee, Rick Santorum, Ted Cruz, is because if you put in the effort and work all 99 counties, this is an organizing effort as much versus, say, a primary where you're running a lot of TV ads, doing a lot of direct mail. If you can get people to sign those caucus commitment cards and show up and be willing to stand there for hours and move from corner to corner, and if you haven't been to the caucus processes before, it is a sight to be seen. I mean, this is not sort of mailing in a ballot. Or showing up and running in and running out. You're there, you're committed and there for hours. And the point that I say that is that somebody who might support Donald Trump, the question is, are they willing to stand there for hours and hours? Probably yes. But the reason that the last three winners have been people who sort of came from nowhere to do it is because they put the time in through the 99 counties and cultivated relationships where people were willing to go. I mean, you can win with like 50,000 votes. Yeah. And so I just say that because we're 5 months out. DeSantis keeps talking about how he's committed to going through each of these counties, developing county chairs. I saw a lot of enthusiasm for both Vivek Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley, and Tim Scott. I think all sort of were really impressive in terms of what the crowd reaction was to some degree. I mean, I'm not talking front runner status, but I mean, hey, if you got to remember Cruz, who ended up winning, was at 8% at this point. Yeah. Now, he wasn't up against a guy like Donald Trump, so it's a little bit of a false equivalency. But here's the deal. I think that, Ron DeSantis in particular is going all in here for a reason. Yeah.
Well, Cruz was against Trump. He just wasn't against Trump as an incumbent president. He was, but yes.
Correct. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Totally get it.
Thank you.
Well, this is why I'm available to you, Sean, if you do need some expertise behind the scenes on the new Sean Spicer Show. Sean,
yeah, I know. I appreciate that. We're getting all the carpets cleaned, and so I will definitely avail you of the discount that you've offered me in the past.
As you and I both get comments from various bartenders and restaurant servers around town about how much they like it when we mess with each other, but I got it completely sincere. There are a lot of jerks in this business. Sean is not one of them. Sean is truly one of the good guys, and I love to see good guys succeed. So congratulations on the new gig. Seriously. Well done.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I've always enjoyed listening to Julie in the morning.
Yeah. Now go shopping at the boys department, all right? It's 7:54. Coming up, Kurt Schlichter on the presidential race and on the Biden family corruption. Next.